All right, guys, welcome back. Another week of League of Inches, and a little bit delayed. There's been a little bit of a muck up during the week. I had a guest to come on the show this week, and unfortunately got a bit sick this week, so we've pushed it back to next week. And what I'm going to do this week is just have a quick couple-minute chat about a few topics. I don't want to go over everything because it's going to be better once I've got this guest back on the show, so that'll be discuss more so next week, but just want to discuss quickly a couple of little things. And first one, I just want to do a hats off to obviously the start of the show, the Hats Off Award. And look, people are going to say I'm a bit biased, but I'm going to back myself up here and say a couple of reasons why. But my hats off for the week is the mighty Parramatta Eels. I think that what we're seeing at the moment is a team that, and obviously being a massive Parra fan, I've seen it all over the years and how they perform. And normally when the going gets tough, that seems to be the time that we tend to go and do our own thing and we give up basically. So we try and do the big plays and we try and get out the easy way, where I think last week we've seen a team that was capable of getting into the wrestle, capable of getting into the actual arm wrestle of the game as such, and get into the bash and barge of it all. And I think that helps with the recruits that we've got this year with Madison and Regan Campbell-Gillard, which is definitely helping our case with that. But that I think if you're a Parra fan out there and you're watching this, and I know there's a fair few mates that are Parra fans, I think we've got a really good team this year. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say anything that's massive, but I do think we're definitely a top 4 team. And then pretty much everyone knows once you get to finals, it's about who has the healthiest roster, a couple of bounces of the ball, things like that. So we can't obviously predict any of that sort of thing at the moment. Let's fingers crossed we're good with injuries and things like that moving forward, and build a little bit of this momentum and keep it going. Look, losses are going to come, and obviously there's a very hard game coming up this week against the Roosters. But before I go into that a little bit, I just wanted to say that I thought the Penrith game on the weekend, I thought that was probably the match of the year so far that I've seen. And I've pretty much watched every game bar about 2 so far this year. A bit of a footy tragic, but I thought that was the best game I've watched of football all year. And it was, if you're a Penrith fan out there, you're not discouraged by what you've seen. You're probably a little bit discouraged in the second half. There was a bit the game management side of things seemed to go a little bit away, but I think also what we've seen now is that when you've got that roll-on effect with teams at the moment, it's so hard to stop. And I think once you gave us a sniff, and with the confidence that the team has at the moment, it was just going to go one way, and I think we ended up controlling that game really well. As I said, I haven't seen that for a Parra side for a number of years, probably dating back to around the 09 and even early to the 01-05 sides. But that's my hats off for the week. Again, I said the Roosters game is going to be a tough one this weekend. It's going to be probably end up being the game of the year. If both teams put their best foot forward, I think it's going to be an absolute thriller. But yeah, let's see what happens, and we'll get a good gauge on where both teams are at after this week. And I'm just hoping this toughness that we've got in the squad at the moment continues, and we go with that. So, look, one thing I want to talk about that I've noticed this year, especially, but I do notice it quite a bit with things, is that the unnecessary cutout pass is that you see a team coming up and you see your playmaker. It's normally the playmaker with the ball, and they've developed a 3-on-2 out wide where they choose to go the cutout option instead of going through their hands. Now, for me, unless you've got a cutout ball like Jared Hayne used to have, where it used to be a bullet, which I don't see many players at the moment actually having one of those, it just slows it up. It's easy for the teams then to slide across and cover in defence, where if you've developed a 3-on-2, what you've always been taught as a junior is to use your hands and create that overlap and make sure you've got that winger down the sideline basically, or your centre, however it ends up working. But for mine, that's how it's working at the moment. I think there's just so many unnecessary balls that are thrown as a cutout, which doesn't need to be thrown. I guess it's if you've got the arsenal to use one, do it. That's what the playmakers are probably thinking. But I think going back in video, a lot of these teams, when they're doing their video sessions, they probably realise, hey, we should have done a good old 3-on-2 or 4-on-3 there. We had them covered. So I even saw one last week, and I think it was like a 5-on-2, and I forget which game it was, but it was a 5-on-2 the attack, and they've decided to throw this massive cutout ball which didn't find the hands to start with, and it was just it's mucked up the whole play. It mucked up the momentum they had and all that sort of thing. So another one, which obviously this is now filmed after last night's game as well, Broncos and the Knights. I think the Broncos, I've already talked about them. I don't want to talk about them too much more because I know my guest that wants to come on wants to have a bit more of a discussion about it. But to me, a big thing that they're lacking at the moment, it happened last week when they're up 18-0 against Manly. Now, this week, they just went over in the fight, really, against the Knights. The lack of leadership is a massive thing there at that club at the moment. It is that clear as day that they do not have the leadership that is required in a football team to manage it. The other thing is that the game management side, the halves are just not doing it. They've gone missing. They went missing last week after being up 18-0. Any other team, I think, in the NRL at the moment would ice that game at 18-0. They continually go missing. And again, Milford last night, where it's hard to be too harsh on Croft at the moment. He's still finding his way in a new club, but Milford's been there for years. They've tried to build this team around him, and he just continues to go missing in games. And for mine, he needs a spell, or put him back at fullback, I think, where he can be that guy who just floats around, pops up when he needs, has a little bit of a run, things like that. But don't rely on him to be a game managing half, which they're trying to do at the moment, because he just doesn't have the skills for it. The Knights, though, another good win last night. I think the only thing I thought about, and I questioned a bit after the game and had to think about it this morning, was that their possession and where they were getting the ball a lot of the time. I think a lot of other good top 8 teams end up putting a lot more points on the Broncos. I thought their attack, they seem to stick to this certain plan, which is all well and good. But I think this has shown this year with the new rules and that now, is that you need to play a bit more footy. And with players like Ponga, who's obviously they've signed the 4-year deal with, and great signing for the club moving forward, but you've got to be able to play a bit more footy. And I thought they should have at least got up to about the 40-plus scoreline against them. It was, I just thought, that there was a couple of tries there they should have probably got that they didn't. So I still have a little bit of question marks in regards to if they're a real top heavyweight this year. I definitely think they're building for probably next year. I think they'll probably be a top 8 side. I think Melbourne just showed them last week what you got to do to be up at that next level, where there's only a few teams at the moment. So, the last thing I want to quickly just point on is that a rule that I've loved for the last couple of years, which seems to have been at a distance now in regards to being back to a one ref system, is the quick tap penalty. I seem to find each week watching now that the refs hold it up and they don't let them do the quick tap much anymore, because the ref has to get to the mark and give him the mark, which is unfortunate, because I thought it was a really good attacking weapon to have a lot of the time. If you had the ball at, say, a Damien Cook or something, and the ref award him a penalty, he can just quickly do the tap and away he goes, which I've found that it hasn't been the case now, which is it's disappointing. But obviously with the run, it is a quick game already as it is. I've seen one maybe on the weekend where it still was a quick tap, but I'm finding probably 9 out of 10 at the moment is getting called back for whatever reason it is. And I just think it's a little bit of a part of the game where it should be back in, and it should help moving forward. But anyway, guys, as I said, just want to be a quick one, which it is. There's going to be some absolute crackers this weekend of footy. You've got the Saturday night thriller. Then you've got on Sunday, you've got Canberra and Manly as well, which I think will be an absolute brilliant game as well. So make sure you tune into the footy this weekend. It's going to be some absolute crackers of some games. And I think after this week, we're going to see who the real heavyweights are of this comp and who isn't. So good luck to everyone's teams out there. Hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll chat again next week when I got the guest, and there'll be a lot more detailed video, so that one's to come. Cheers, guys.